Genesis chapter 12, King James Version. Now the Lord had said unto Abram, Get thee out of thy country, and from thy kindred, and from thy father's house, unto a land that I will show thee. And I will make of thee a great nation. I will bless thee, and make thy name great. And thou shalt be a blessing. I will bless them that bless thee, and curse him that curseth thee. And in thee shall all families of the earth be blessed. So Abram departed, as the Lord had spoken unto him. And Lot went with him, and Abram was 75 years old when he departed from Haran. And Abram took Sarai his wife, and Lot his brother's son, and all their substance that they had gathered, and the souls that they had gotten in Haran. And they went forth to go to the land of Canaan, and into the land of Canaan they came. And Abram passed through the land unto a place of Zechem, unto the plain of Morah. And the Canaanite was then in the land. And the Lord appeared unto Abram, and said, Unto thy seed will I give this land. And there builded he an altar unto the Lord, who appeared unto him. And he removed thence unto a mountain on the east of Bethel, and pitched his tent, having Bethel on the west, and Hai on the east. And there he builded an altar unto the Lord. And Abram journeyed, going on still toward the south. And there was a famine in the land. And Abram went down into Egypt to sojourn there, for the famine was grievous in the land. And it came to pass, when he was come near to enter into Egypt, that he said unto Sarai his wife, Behold, now I know that thou art a fair woman to look upon. Therefore it shall come to pass, when the Egyptians shall see thee, that they shall say, This is his wife, and they will kill me, but they will save thee alive. Pray, I say thee, thou art my sister, that it may be well with me for my sake, and my soul shall live because of thee. And it came to pass that when Abram was come unto Egypt, the Egyptians beheld the woman, that she was very fair. The princess also of Pharaoh saw her, and commanded her before Pharaoh. And the woman was taken into Pharaoh's house. And he entreated Abram well for her sake. And he had sheep and oxen, and he asses, and manservants, and maidservants, and she-asses, and camels. And the Lord plagued Pharaoh and his house with great plagues because of Sarai, Abram's wife. And the Pharaoh called Abram, and said, What is this that thou hast done unto me? Why did thou not tell me that she was thy wife? Why saidst thou, She is my sister? So I might have taken her to me to wife. Now therefore, behold thy wife, take her, and go thy way. And Pharaoh commanded his men concerning him, and they sent him away, and his wife, and all that he had. Okay, so we're in the life of Abram here. They stopped in Haran. That's when Abram's father, Terah, died at 205 years old, I think. And this chapter 12 starts with, I suppose after his death, Abram's father's death. And he's telling Abram to keep going to the original destination of Canaan, which was where they were going, and for some reason they'd stopped in Haran in chapter 11 and didn't go further. And that's when the father had died. And now that he's dead, God is commanding, he's saying, like, go, keep going to that destination, to Canaan. And so he does. He can hear the voice of the Lord. That's pretty cool. And he does what he says. He goes, he takes Lot, his nephew, and his wife, Sarai. He takes them, and, the people that I guess that work for them, that are a part of their camp. And already, God is like making promises. Verse 2 of chapter 12, I will make of thee a great nation, and I will bless thee and make thy name great, and thou shalt be a blessing. Note verse 3, and I will bless them that bless thee, and curse him that curseth thee. And in thee shalt all families of the earth be blessed. It's a lot of foreshadowing about his bloodline. A very sacred bloodline that has an ability, a really divine ability given by God. So, I'm just looking. Abram's 75 years old. And when they reach the land of Canaan, it looks like, even though Canaanites were then in the land, in verse 6, verse 7 says, and the Lord appeared unto Abram and said, unto thy seed will I give this land. And there builded he an altar unto the Lord. And who appeared unto him? So God actually appeared unto him in some form. How? It doesn't specify how he did. But he was actually talking with him, having a conversation with him. Kind of reminds me of Noah a little bit, except here it says he appeared unto him. So there was some kind of physical something going on there where he was materialized in some way, not probably as God himself. I think that's just an impossibility, given how different his nature and our nature is. But there's, in some form or another, he appeared unto him and made him this promise that this land of Canaan was to be Abram's lineage's land. He's telling him already, this is going to be where you're going to be. He's giving him, the trailer, the preview of his plans, for him. And Abram built an altar. He built an altar, recognizing what's going on, what's been said to him, the promise. And so it looks like verse 10, there was a famine in the land, and Abram went down into Egypt to sojourn there. He went down into Egypt. So he's already showing fear. He's 75 years old, mind you. She's not that much younger than he is. Maybe a few years younger. So I'm thinking that their 75 must not be our 75, because Sarah is still beautiful, So beautiful that he's scared that somebody's going to take his life to get her in their 70s. So definitely the aging process was different. There may have been some similarities, but she's fair, she's beautiful. She's so beautiful that In verse 15, the princes also of Pharaoh saw her. So these are young men. Maybe I'm reading too much into this. She's in her 70s. She's got the young men going. What? Like, what? So she's beautiful. Visually, she's so beautiful. And it scared him because he felt like, and he was right, he felt like somebody was going to try to take him out to get her. And apparently that's a thing in this Bible. Folks taking out husbands to get other people's wives, like as if that's like the legal way to get her, because a marriage, and it says so in this book, and there's so many reasons behind that. A marriage, a real one, the kind where a man and woman come together, that marriage is sacred. You're not really meant to get a divorce and move on to the next, and have like a second, third, fourth husband, wife and stuff. You're not really meant to do that. It's really meant to be just one man and one woman. It just really defeats a whole lot of complication. It's for our own good, really. And it's also a symbolism of like God's love for us. Like, it's just a big deal. And this is going to be all revealed later. I don't want to get ahead. But, and I don't want to offend anyone, because I know there are people out there who, I know some personally, that, that's a controversial topic. But here, where he's afraid that someone's going to kill him to get her, the idea behind that is they're going to kill him, not just to remove him, so they can have her, but it's like lawfully. Then she would be available to be married, because she doesn't have a husband that she's in a covenant with. So that's a big reason, behind the men wanting to kill the husband of some woman to get to the woman, is because it just eliminates that covenant. Not just the man, where they can just swipe her. They want to eliminate whatever that covenant is, because there's probably curses that come. I believe it to be so, from what I've seen in real life, and even here in this book. There are curses that come for those who get in the middle, of that. What God brought together, let no man separate, it says it in this book. And there's a reason. This is God's words, this is the word of God. There's a reason he's saying this stuff, and it's like a warning. Like, for those who are trying to get in the middle of it, you're going to be cursing yourself or something. I don't know. It's just kind of how I've been interpreting it. I don't want to offend anyone, though. So we're going to move on to the fact that Abram doesn't want to be killed off so that somebody can get his wife. He doesn't want to lose his life over this. And sure enough, he went into Egypt, and, even the young guys are checking her out. She's hot. She's beautiful. She's attractive. So attractive that it seems as though he was right. They would probably be willing to kill him to get her. And so he lies. He says that it's his sister, which I think technically this is like a family member of his, like a cousin or something. Given that Haran's daughter married her uncle. This just seems like kind of a thing, keeping it in the family. These are the early days, so, it just kind of is what it is back then, for many reasons. But he wasn't lying technically, it seems like. She was his family. But she's his wife, and that was what he wanted to hide. And so Pharaoh takes her. He's like got her in the kingdom, and as a reward, he's spoiling him. Abram, he's giving him everything, It says, verse 16, he entreated Abram well for her sake, and he had sheep and oxen, and he asses, manservants, maidservants, and she asses, and camels. He was blessed by this guy, in exchange for this woman. But the very next verse, we've got verse 17, and the Lord plagued Pharaoh and his house with great plagues because Sarai, Abram's wife. Like, God was not having that. First of all, God already had a plan for him before all of this. So The fact that Abram tried to take matters into his own hands when he was told, like, just go, God's making a covenant. He's telling him that he's going to have this prosperity in his family. So obviously he's not going to be killed at this point. But you can see Abram just being human. He's got this relationship with God, but he's just being human. He's like, I don't want to die. My wife's too beautiful. I don't know what's going on. These are desperate times. I don't want to die. And he just takes matters into his own hands. He lets his fear take over. And this mess happens because he lied. So God's having to swoop in and put things back the way that it was. I can only think, like, what could God be thinking when we're doing things like this? It just, oh my gosh, I can't. So he plagues Pharaoh's household. He's just not letting up on him. And it's really funny. This is kind of seems like a foreshadow of Exodus in a way. Let my people go type thing, except, it's just one woman. But it seems like a mini version of Exodus. That's what it looks like to me. He's plaguing his house to remove this woman and put her back, where she belongs in this covenant with her husband, which is like, to me, a similarity between the Pharaoh and Exodus and God plaguing that kingdom to remove the people, the Israelites, to be reconciled with him in that covenant, or that marriage, quote unquote, that relationship. So I just see a parallel there. And if you don't know that story, we're gonna get to it soon enough. It's a good story. Exodus is really interesting. So quickly, it seems like Pharaoh's recognized what's going on. He knows that this woman is bringing curses. And so he's coming and approaching Abraham. What are you doing, dude? This is your wife and you lied. You're messing up what I got going. And it's so bad that he's just like, take your wife. You lied. You said she was your sister. You lied. Get her. Get your stuff that I already gave you. He didn't even want his stuff back. He was just like, get her, take her and go. And he sent him away. Verse 20, the last verse. And Pharaoh commanded his men concerning him, and they sent him away, and his wife, and all he had. It's just a mess. It's already. You see it's just such a contrast from the beginning. Verse 1, and now the Lord said unto Abram, get thee. He's walking with him, he's talking with him, he's making promises, and at the end you can just see how humans being human, even when they're with God, we're still like putting matters into our own hands, leaning on our own judgment, our own understanding, and even assuming things that may not even be what we're thinking. Although it kind of was true, who's to say that God wouldn't have intervened, if somebody tried to kill him? And he would have, because he's already said in the beginning that he's going to bless him and make a great nation out of him and give him this land that was currently inhabited. So obviously this is something in the future that he's going to get. And he hasn't had any children yet. His wife is barren, said so in chapter 11. So obviously there's more to be done. He's been given the promise by God. There's more to be done. The guarantee is there because God said it. His words are not going to return back void ever. Whatever God says that's the truth. And still it seems like somehow or another, maybe through distraction of just being in a human moment, a world moment, just in life, getting caught up in life, and the fact that it is a hard time, this famine, and he's migrating and just trying to, survive. He probably had like a lapse in judgment there, and he took matters into his own hands, his own judgment, and it wasn't right because it led to him sinning. It led to him lying. And that lie led to somebody taking his wife, and possible adultery, could be occurring. Who knows? Just all kinds of messes that led God to have to come and remove all of this and put it back the way that it was at the beginning of this chapter, so that what his word has said will come to pass, despite what we're doing. Which also makes me think of free will. Like, God gives us free will. So many people ask, like, why do bad things happen to good people and all this? It's because of free will. It doesn't have anything to do with God. God is really graceful and merciful. He allows us to make choices, and unfortunately there are people out there trying to make good choices. There are people out there that aren't walking with God still trying to make good choices. You know, they've got good hearts. And then there are people who are just straight up wicked. There's people out there that's just doing evil. There's a lot of them out there that are just evil-hearted, hatred in their heart people. Like, there's just so many that's just, they're self-destructing, and then they radiate the destruction towards anybody around them, you know, that type of stuff. A lot of them, I don't think they realize, but I think in some form or another many of them do. And the free will is, you know, the fact that we've got this free will is kind of, it causes problems amongst the world. I mean, there's 8.2 billion people today, and we're affecting each other, whether it be a positive or negative experience. But what I also learned in this is, despite us having this free will and these things happening based on these choices and behaviors and mannerisms or just living life, God's will is, how do I say it? It's God's will is like this is our will. We're doing what we want to do, but the God's will is like overlapping it. He's not controlling us. We can run and jump and scream and whatever we want, right? Do whatever we wish, even to our own imagination, even if it's evil. But God's will is like the end all be all. Like the story and the way that he wants all of this to ultimately go from beginning to end, it will be, despite what we do. I mean, we can still do whatever we want, but it's just like this thing with Abram. He's making his choices. God has already given him the promises and told him how things are going to go, you know? How many people get the insight to a future of their life, especially good things, and the guarantee, too, by the Creator. And yet he still went on, you know, and lied and all of this other stuff. He still kind of, there was a lack of faith or belief or something, you know, going on there, where he didn't just walk fully with God. And I'm not blaming him for that. So many of us do this. It's just human. And considering that these are in the early days of the world, I mean, this is just a very new concept, all of this. God's directly talking to him and everything. And, you know, despite the fact that he took the matters into his own hands and decided he was going to lie, and it led to this big old mess, God's will, it's just going to be what it's going to be. And God literally had to change things up a little bit to make people make different choices. He didn't make Pharaoh, you know, kick her out and send them away. He just caused some stuff to happen. He knows our hearts, and he knows what'll get us to move in certain ways. And his will overlapped this. His will was the end all be all to this. He said that Abram's going to have this, and it needs to be fulfilled now, because his words can't come back void. God doesn't lie. He can't lie. Like they say, like, what can't God do? The things that he can't do are like actually pretty excellent. He can't lie. And I think it's partially because his words are just that powerful that it must be returned, just as he said. And he's already declared some things here. So it's got to play out now. And it doesn't matter what we're doing or what he's doing, you know, to get in the way of that and almost ruin it. God said it's going to be, so it's going to be. And so this chapter ends with, Abram with his wife back, and he's more prosperous. Despite his little lie, God still, you know, made sure that he was leaving with provisions in a famine. And it just makes me think also, how would it have played out if he just walked fully with God? Not being afraid that someone would kill him for his wife, but actually like just living a true full life. Like, how would he have been blessed? Maybe he would have had more. Who knows? Like, but things like this make me look back in retrospect, even in my own life, like what trusting God really means. even if it seems like an impossible circumstance or you might be in danger. If God said something, it's going to be. And one of the things that he says is everything works out for the good of those who love him. So if you're in a relationship with God, I mean a real one, every day he's a part of your life. And you're walking in his will and his ways. You're really like engaged with your creator. He's not going to let anything happen to you, even if it seems like things are happening around you or whatever. He's not going to let it be. I can vouch for that. And I keep saying I have this testimony, and I'm waiting for it to complete itself. I feel as though I'm on the tail end of this. I just really feel it in my spirit that I'm on the tail end so that I can tell you. I just can't yet until it's completed. But it goes along these lines of really walking with God in the face of uncertainty, long term, like Job style uncertainty, where everything is going wrong, even down to your health and stuff, and your faith in God is definitely tested. But these are the times that you really need to really dig your heels in and seek him, and just don't let him go. There's such a blessing, if not so many, at the end of such a trial, if you're ever in one. Some people call them isolation periods or Job moments, Job seasons, whatever you want to call it. These are the times that you don't leave him ever. I mean, you never leave him even when things are good. For me, I can't wait to celebrate what's coming with my God. He helped me get there. He's the reason why I'm going to get to that point. And I want him to be there to celebrate and enjoy it with me. I would miss him if he disappeared after, and he's not going to. He'll never leave and forsake me. He won't leave and forsake you. So anyways, I'm rambling on. We're at like 27 minutes. I am sorry. These are just the observations in my commentary about this chapter. I think Abram is a really interesting chap. He's a man of God for sure. And God definitely he definitely chose him in a very special way. A very special way. I mean, he's the father of, well, maybe I shouldn't say. I mean, some of you probably already know, but there's a song that I used to sing as a kid during the Shabbat called Father Abraham. And it was just fun for kids because we could move our bodies and stuff or bring it in the Shabbat. You probably heard of it. Maybe I'll share a link or something in the below in the for this video to get you to show you that song. It's called Father Abraham. It's like, Father Abraham had many sons had Father Abraham. I am one of them, and so are you. So let's just praise the Lord. Right arm, Father Abraham. It's just a really cute song. But when I think of Abraham and him being the father of what's to come that God has promised, it makes me think of it's subconsciously we're bringing in the Shabbat as kids, and it was like we were reciting that without realizing it, even though for us as a kid it was just a fun song. It's like, no, we were singing about him. And he's a big deal. So anyway, let's see what he does next in chapter 13. I appreciate you for reading along with me. I pray that you got something out of this that you can apply to your own life, and just a better understanding of this chapter and just the story of the Bible so far. If you have any questions or just insights or things that really spoke to you or stood out to you, please share them. I would love to hear it. I'm learning things every time I read, and I don't think that's ever going to end. So I'm just super open to any other thoughts or any other things that really stood out to any of you. Anyway, thank you for tuning in, and God bless you. I pray many, many, many blessings over you, and I love you. Bye.